Hello, good evening. It is 9 p.m. in Djibouti. It's time to English news, and for tonight's headlines, we have concerning the Islamic finance, the Global Islamic Finance Award, Bosnia and Herzegovina, the summit meeting between President Gele and Bosniak President, the speech of the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the 73 General Assembly of the United Nations. Concerning international scene, Boko Haram attack on the lecture, 6 dead and 16 jihadists shoot dead. Welcome to our newsroom. For his firstly friendly visit to Sarajevo and as part of his participation in the Jifa ceremony, the President of the Republic was received this Saturday by the President of the Collegiate Council of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bahir Izetkovic, at the Presidential Palace. After exchanging handshake, the two leaders held a face-to-face meeting where they spoke of the beginning of a friendship and solidarity relationship between the two countries. The discussions between the two leaders took place in the presence of the respective delegation accompanying them. Ways and means of establishing collaboration between the two countries and the two peoples were on the agenda. President Gele also congratulated his Bosniak counterpart for his distinctions of the World Grand Prize for Islamic Finance. Subsequently, an official lunch was offered by the Bosnian president in honor of the head of state, Ismail Margele, member of the Djibouti delegation, including Djibouti's ambassador to the Republic of Turkey, Mr. Alan Hussein Abdullahi, and the central bank governor, Mr. Ahmed Osman Ali, who accompanied President Gele during his stay in Sarajevo, were introduced to President Bahir Izetkovic. Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Djibouti, said that the crisis of the multilateralism, protectionist tendencies, the palpable temptations of autocratic withdrawal, sometimes aesthetic, are the consequences of the ideology that emerged in many countries of the world, not after the last migratory flow. He therefore welcomed the mobilizations of the international community and the development of response and plans of action, in particularly well-conducted intergovernmental process, including the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migrations, on the Global Compact on Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration, the refugee. With regards to the 2013 agenda, the minister announced that his country will soon be presenting its voluntary review as a salutary introspection. Supporting country will require out only innovative financing strategy, increased flows of foreign direct investment, but also continued commitment to development assistance. But the biggest threat to the implementations of the 2030 agenda is conflict and violence, said the minister. In contrast to the gloomy pictures of the war, the Horn of Africa, he said, has witnessed a succession of historical development that can generate dividend for peace, reconciliation and economic development. The minister once again welcomed the rapprochement between Ethiopia and Eritrea before informing the Assembly that the President of Djibouti and Eritrea met on 17 September in Jeddah and agreed to open a new chapters in the relations between these two brother countries. They agreed to continue the dialogue with a view to finding a peaceful solution to the outstanding issue, including the border dispute and prisoners of war. The Minister of Health, Dr. Jama Elmi Okiye, yesterday delivered the 4 emblems to the Gabos Civil Prison and Arta Dakhil and Tujura Health Region Center. The official ceremony of handing over was held in the premises of the Ministry of Health in the presence of our main executive of the department. the Minister of Health, Dr. Jama Al-Mu'okiyeh, has handed over the key of 3 ambulances to the hands of the Minister Delegate for Decentralization, Mr. Hamadou Mohamed Aramis. His approach to building capacity in medical transport for the benefit of the Yobo, Kiranda and Pika 12 health facilities is part of the promotion of decentralization process. Finally, the 4 ambulances for the Gabot civil prison was handed over by the Minister of Health, Jama Al-Mu'okiyeh, to the Secretary General of the Ministry of Justice, Mr. Maki Omar Abdul Qadir, to strengthen medical care in prison. The General Inspectorate of Technical Education and Vocational Training organized training workshop under the theme Challenges and Vocational Training at the Industrial and Commercial High School of Djibouti, known as LIC. The MINFOP Secretary General, Mr. Mohamed Abdallah Mahyoub, opened the training workshop, which showed the presence of the MINSOP officials in charge of staff of the Ministry of Women and Family. This training workshop was intended for all those involved in training, namely headmasters, supervisors, and teachers. The objective of this training workshop is to facilitate insertion of the graduate, management of vocational training center, and training cycles. The Secretary General of the MINFOP, Mr. Mohamed Abdallah Mahyoub, explained at length to participants the importance and challenges of vocational training. He recalled that this training is a quality training covering all areas on technical education and learning. For a part, the Acting Secretary General of the Ministry of Women and Family, Nabila Salman, focused on the issue of vocational training. She encouraged the participants and thanked the trainers of the MINFOP. Remember that the major changes started this year for the transformation of the Djiboutian schools is also through professional training. Young African leaders, intervention youth who have returned to Djibouti have held a briefing this morning at the SOS headmasters in the Barbala on the Mandela workshop programs in the United States, shared their experience with the young Djiboutians to enable them to start participate in these trainings. Traveled to the United States of America. They took advantage of 6 weeks of training in different American universities to become leaders in their respective fields, help their fellow citizens to improve their living condition. We meet Omar Dileta, one of the participants in this yearly program's Young African Leaders Initiative, initiated by the President Barack Obama.
Is all about the Youth African Leaders Initiative, which is mean that the U.S. Department are looking for the next generation leaders who will lead in Africa, all the country. So I have been in United States for 6 weeks this year, and that was 6 weeks, a very fulfillment and powerful program. I was in the civic leadership programs, and I did learn a lot of things about the mindset, how to lead every day, how to make a challenge within the community, how also to increase the empowerment of the youth. And this is a very, very huge and unique program that the American Embassy gave us as an opportunity to participate on that programs. And after that, we had a summit from 700 participants have been come on that summit, and we discussed a lot about the issues of Africa at all and how we can communicate within African citizens. So now I call the youth in Djibouti who have the ability to be leaders and also have the dream to realize some projects about some leadership skills. This is now the opportunity for them to take advantage on that application. I call them to read about it. What is YALI? There is a platform on that, there is a website on that, and also there is in social media of US Embassy in Djibouti. They can find the application, how they can apply.
The Union for Cultural Development, UDC, organized a rich evening of cultures and folk dances at their headquarters in Al-Hiba. Evening received RTD to support poor families in isolated area of the interior. This ceremony was animated by the great artists such as Abzid Ali, Fafi Harun, Yusuf Hummet, and Harb Wabzid. Cultural and traditional dances troupe sketch several parliamentarians, directors and officials participate in the ceremony. The president of UDC, Mr. Mohammed Hassan, thanked all the participants who traveled massively for this ceremony. He also reminded that culture is the identity of each individual. He invited them to keep their culture well educated, to educate children. The UDC is an institution for the promotion and education culture. It guarantees the development of Afar traditional song and dances. Under the aegis of the State Secretary for Youth and Sport, a delegation of the Egyptian Federation of Judo Associate Discipline composed of the President of the Federation, Mr. Faisal Abdurrahman, and Mrs. Huda Faisal participate in the Arab Minimal Championship, youngest from September 27th to 30th in Beirut, Lebanon. The Egyptian judoka Huda won the bronze medals. Note that the competition is part of the preparation for the Young Olympic Games to be held in Buenos Aires in early October. The young arrived at this level thanks to the support of her father, who is none other than the president of the federation. Ms. Huda was able to beat her opponent, namely two Egyptians, in the 44-kilogram category by opponents, but she lost a referee a silver medal against a Syrian woman, and she won a bronze medal. It is a second medal for a second competition. It is a feat for the girls who already shows the signs of beating women ready for everything, and even that of Olympic champions. Mr. Faisal did not fail to express his pride in his daughters, but also his gratitude to the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport for the constant support for the promotion and development of the Egyptian's judo. Concerning the international scene, 6 people, including 2 soldiers, were killed on Friday night in the attack on the Chadian banks of Lake Chad by the Islamic group Boko Haram, which has lost 17 jihadists killed by the army, have learned today from security and military sources. More detail with this report.
Haram element attack a village south of Dabua, not far from Chad's border with Niger, at around 9 p.m. on Tuesday, the military sources say. The Islamic they told of 18 people, wounded 2 others, and kidnapped 10 women. Boko Haram Islamist insurgents has devastated the region since it took up arms in 2009 in Nigeria, leaving at least 20,000 people die, displacing more than 2 million others, and triggering a humanitarian crisis. Chad, Cameroon and Niger have all joined the military force by the Nigerian to crush Boko Haram. Chad has seen a recent increase in attacks by the group. In May, 6 people were killed, including 4 government officials and soldiers, in a Boko Haram attack on Chadian army checkpoint on Iceland in Lake Chad. Nigerian army says Saturday it killed 10 terrorists after one of its military positions in the southwest of the country was attacked by Boko Haram.
7 Palestinians, including 2 children, were murdered by Israeli occupiers in the protest in Gaza. For more detail with this report.
Israel unremitting separation of the Great Return March in the Gaza Strip since its launch on 13 March 2018. The Israeli occupying force OAF killed 4 Palestinian protesters on Friday, 27 April 2018, and injured 453 protesters, including 207 by live ammunition, of which 11 injuries were described as critical. The injured including 69 children, 8 women, and 5 paramedics.
And to close up this edition, a powerful typhoon struck 15 people on Saturday near Okinawa Island, southwest of Japan, and is expected to do more damages by continuing its journey through the archipelago over the weekend. Officials said. More detail with this report.
We will threaten lives and property as it slammed the Ryukyu Island and mainland Japan with destructive winds, flooding rain, and inundating storm surge throughout Monday. The powerful typhoon is currently equal to a Category 3 major hurricane in the Atlantic or East Pacific Ocean and is expected to hold that intensity through the weekend. Residents should be making the necessary precautions to protect themselves and property against the dangerous typhoon. Those living in coastal communities and in flood-prone areas should pay attention to local authorities and heed evacuation orders.
This is it for tonight's news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.